the 26th flash. 30th for the elderly. This flash consists of 26 herbs, lights, and solaces. Note: it is written in a handwritten copy of this flash corrected by the respected author. The remaining herbs from the 14th to the 26th have not been written due to the well-known calamity, Eskişehir prison. The time of writing them having passed now, it has remained without them. Reminder: the reason I have described my sorrows and afflictions at the beginning of each herb in a truly grievous way that will sadden you is in order to show the extraordinary efficaciousness of the remedies proceeding from the all-wise Qur'an. This flash concerning the elderly has been unable to preserve its beauty of expression in 3 or 4 respects. The first: it is about my life, the events of which I revisited in my imagination. It was written in the state of minds of those times. It was not possible, therefore, to preserve an orderly arrangement in the way it is set out. The second: it was written at a time I felt extreme fatigue after the morning prayers, and I was also compelled to write it at speed. Its manner of expression therefore became confused. The third: there was not always someone with me to write, and the scribe who generally accompanied me had 4 or 5 other duties connected with the Risale-i Nur. We therefore could not find sufficient time to correct it, and it remained in a disordered state. The fourth: we were both tired after its composition, and not thinking carefully of the meaning, made do with correcting it only superficially, so there are bound to be faults in the manner of expression. I request the generous elderly to look tolerantly on such errors, and to include us in their prayers when they raise their hands to the divine court, since divine mercy does not reject the prayers of the blessed elderly. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad. This is a recital of the mercy of your sustainer to his servant Zechariah. Behold, he cried to his sustainer in secret, praying, O my sustainer, infirm indeed are my bones, and the hair of my head glistens with gray, but I am never unblessed, O my sustainer, in my prayer to you. First herb. Respected elderly brothers and sisters who have reached maturity. Like you, I am elderly. I am going to write the herbs I have found in my old age and some of the things that have befallen me out of the desire to share with you the lights of consolation they contain. Of course, the lights I have seen and the doors of herb I have encountered have been seen and opened in accordance with my defective and confused abilities. God willing, your pure, sincere dispositions will make those lights shine more brightly and strengthen the herbs I have found. Thus, the spring, source, and fount of the following herbs and lights is belief in God. Second herb. One day, as I was entering upon old age in the autumn at the time of the afternoon prayer, I was gazing on the world from a high mountain. Suddenly, I was overwhelmed by a plaintive, sorrowful, and in one respect dark state of mind. I saw that I had become old. The day too had grown old, and so had the year, so too had the world become old. As the time of departure from the world and separation from those I loved was drawing close within these instances of old age, my own old age shook me severely. Suddenly, divine mercy unfolded in such a way that it transformed that plaintive sadness and separation into a powerful help and shining light of solace. Yes, you who are elderly like myself. The all-compassionate Creator presents Himself to us in 100 places in the all-wise Qur'an as the most merciful of the merciful, and always sends His mercy to the assistance of living creatures on the face of the earth who seek it, and every year fills the spring with innumerable bounties and gifts from the unseen, sending them to us who are needy for sustenance, and manifests His mercy in greater abundance relatively to our weakness and impotence. For us, in our old age, therefore, His mercy is our greatest help and most powerful light. It may be obtained by forming a relation with the most merciful One through belief and performing the 5 daily prayers by being obedient to Him. Third hope. One time, when I awoke in the morning of old age from the sleep of the night of youth, I looked at myself and saw that my life was hastening towards the grave as though racing down a slope. As Niyaz-i-Misri said, "Each day a stone from the building of my life falls to the ground. Heedless one, you slumber, unaware that the building is in ruins." My body, my spirit's dwelling, was becoming dilapidated with every day a stone of it falling away. My hopes and ambitions which bound me strongly to the world had begun to be broken off from it. I felt that the time I would be separated from my innumerable friends and those I loved was drawing near. I searched for a self for that deep and apparently incurable spiritual want, but I could not find one. Again, like Niyaz-i-Misri, I said, "While my heart desires its immortality, reality required the passing of my body. I am afflicted with an incurable ill, which even Luqman could not cure." Note: that is to say, although with all its strength my heart wanted my body to be immortal, divine wisdom necessitated its destruction. I was afflicted with an incurable ill for which even Luqman the wise could find no solution. Then suddenly the light and intercession of the glorious Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, the tone, model, exemplar, herald, and representative of divine compassion, and the gift of guidance he brought to mankind, soothed and healed the wounds I had supposed to be incurable and endless. Yes, respected elderly men and women who feel their old age like I do. We are departing. There is no use in deceiving ourselves. Even if we close our eyes to it, we will not remain here. There is a mobilization. The land of the intermediate realm, which appears to us to be dark and full of separation due to the gloomy delusions which arise from heedlessness and impart from the people of misguidance, is the meeting place of friends. It is the world where we shall meet with foremost God's beloved, upon whom be blessings and peace, and with all our friends. We are going to the world of the one who every year for 1,350 years has been the ruler of 1,350 million people, and the trainer of their spirits, the teacher of their minds, and the beloved of their hearts, to whose book of good works, in accordance with the meaning of "the cause is like the doer," is every day added the equivalent of all the good works performed by his community, who is the means by which the elevated divine purposes in the universe are accomplished and the high value of beings are realized. When he came into the world, according to authentic narrations and accurate divining of reality, he exclaimed, "My community, my community." So too, at the last judgment, when everyone thinks only of themselves, he will again declare, "My community, my community," and with sacred, elevated self-sacrifice hasten with his intercession to its assistance. We are going to such a world, illuminated by the stars of countless saints and purified scholars revolving around that sun, upon whom be blessings and peace. Thus, the way to share in that beings, upon whom be blessings and peace, intercession, and profit from his light, and be saved from the darkness of the intermediate realm, is to follow his glorious practices. Fourth hope. At the time I approached old age, my physical health, which perpetuates heedlessness, was broken. Old age and illness attacked me in concert. Hitting me over the head, they chased away sleep. I had nothing to bind me to the world like family, children, and possessions. Having wasted the fruits of my lives, the capital on the giddiness of youth, I saw them to consist only of sins and mistakes. Crying out like Niyaz Misri, I said, I had concluded no trade, the capital of life was all lost. I came to the road to find the caravan had moved on unaware. Lamenting, I continued down the road, all alone, a stranger. My eyes weeping, my heart in anguish, my mind bewildered, unaware. I was in exile at the time. I felt a despairing sorrow, a regretful penitence, a longing for assistance. Suddenly, the all-wise Qur'an came to my aid. It opens a door of hope so powerful and afforded a light of consolation so true that it could have dispelled despair and darknesses 100 times more intense than mine. Yes, respected elderly men and women whose attachment to the world has begun to be sundered and the ties binding them to be broken. Is it possible that the all-glorious Maker who creates this world as a perfectly ordered city or palace would not speak with his most important guests and friends or not meet with them? Since he knowingly made the palace and ordered and adorned it through his will and choice, certainly as one who makes knows, so one who knows will speak. Since he made this palace and city into a fine guest house and place of trade for us, he will surely have a book, a file, to explain his relations with us and what he desires from us. The most holy of such books is the Qur'an of miraculous exposition. It is a miracle in 40 respects and is every instant on the tongues of at least 100 million people. It scatters light, and every letter of it affords at least 10 merits and rewards and fruits of paradise and lights in the inanimate realm, and sometimes 10,000, and sometimes, through the mystery of the night of power, 30,000. There is no book in the universe to compete with it in this respect, and no one could put one forward. Since this Qur'an which we have is the word of the all-glorious Creator of the heavens and earth, proceeding from his absolute dominicality, the tremendousness of his Godhead, and his all-encompassing mercy, and is his decree and a source of his mercy, adhere to it. In it are found a cure for every ill, a light for every darkness, and a hope for all despair. And the key to this eternal treasury is belief and submission to God, and listening to the Qur'an, and accepting it, and reciting it. Fifth hope. One time, at the start of my old age, when I desired solitude, I retired to Yusha Tepesi, Mount Yusha, away up the Istanbul Bosphorus. My spirit was seeking ease in lowliness. One day, on that high hill, I gazed around me at the broad horizon, and I cast a glance from the high position of the 45th branch, that is, the 45th year of the tree of my life, to its lower levels. I saw that down on the lower branches of each year were the countless corpses of those I had known and had loved, and with whom I had been connected. I felt a truly piteous sorrow at their parting and separation. I wept like Fuzuli Baghdadi for the friends from whom I was parted. As I recall their company, I weep. So long as there is breath in this dry body, I cry out. I sought a solace, a light, a door leading to hope. Suddenly, belief in the hereafter came to my assistance, shedding an extinguishable light, offering an indestructible hope. Yes, my brothers and sisters who are elderly like me, since the hereafter exists, and it is everlasting, and it is a better world than this, and since the one who created us is both all-wise and all-compassionate, we should not complain and regret our old age. On the contrary, we should be happy at it insofar as with age one reaches perfect maturity through worship and belief, and it is a sign one will be released from the duties of life and depart for the world of mercy in order to rest. According to narrations, some relying on witnessing and some on absolute certainty, mankind's most eminent individuals, the 124,000 prophets, have unanimously given news of the existence of the hereafter, and that man will be sent there, and the universe's creator will bring it about in accordance with his certain promise. Similarly, affirming true illumination and witnessing in the form of certainty at the degree of knowledge the reports of the prophets, the 124 million saints have testified to the hereafter's existence. And through the manifestations they display in this world, all the names of the universe's all-wise maker self-evidently necessitate an everlasting realm. So too, the infinite pure eternal power and the boundless eternal wisdom, which allowing nothing to be vain and purposeless every year in the spring, raised to life with the command of be, and it is, the incalculable corpses of the dead trees on the face of the earth, making them manifest life after death, and revivify 300,000 species of plants and animals as thousands of samples of the resurrection of the dead. This observedly necessitates the existence of the hereafter, as does the eternal mercy and perpetual favor which with perfect compassion and in wondrous fashion provide the livelihoods of all living beings needed for sustenance, and in a brief time in spring display their uncountable source of adornment and decoration. They too necessitate the existence of the hereafter. Together with man, the most perfect root of the universe, and its creature's most loved creature, who of all beings is the most closely concerned with the beings in the universe, and the clear indications and certain evidence of his intense, unshakable, constant desire for immortality, and his hopes which extend to eternity, all this proves so decisively that after this transient world there will be an eternal world, a realm of the hereafter, an everlasting happiness that they self-evidently necessitate acceptance of the hereafter's existence. Note: the ease of reporting a definite matter and the difficulty in denying it may be seen in the following comparison. If one person says, "There is a wondrous garden on earth whose trees produce fruits which are cans of milk," and another says, "There isn't," the one claiming it only has to point out where it is or some of its fruits in order to easily prove it, whereas the one denying can only prove his denial by seeing and showing the whole face of the earth. In just the same way, even if one disregards the hundreds of thousands of signs, fruits, and marks of paradise which those who give news of it have indicated, the testimony of two truthful witnesses to its certain existence is sufficient, while the one who denies it can only prove his denial after observing the infinite universe and infinite, unending time, and seeing it and investigating it exhaustively. Only then can he demonstrate its non-existence. And so, my elderly brothers, you may understand just how powerful is belief in the hereafter. Since the most important thing the all-wise Qur'an teaches us is belief in the hereafter, and since this belief is thus powerful and it yields such hope and solace that if a person was overwhelmed by old age 100,000 times over, the consolation arising from this belief would be sufficient to face it. For sure, we elderly people should love our old age and say, "All praise be to God for perfect belief." Sixth hope. One time, during my distressing captivity, I was alone on the top of Chamda, the pine mountain, in the mountains of Barla, having withdrawn from the company of man. I was searching for a light in my loneliness. One night, on the small platform at the top of a tall pine tree, on the summit of that high mountain, old age recalled to me 3 or 4 exiles, one within the other. As is described in the 6th letter, the melancholy sound of the rustling, murmuring trees on that lonely, silent, distant night affected me grievously in my old age and exile. Old age gave me the following thought: like the day changed into this black grave, and the world donned its black shroud, the daytime of your life, too, will turn into night, and the daytime of the world turn into the night of the intermediate realm, and summertime of life will be transformed into the winter night time of death. It whispered this in my heart's ear. My soul was then obliged to say, yes, I am far from my native land, but being separated from all those I have loved during my 50 years lifetime who have died, and remaining weeping for them is a far more grievous and sorrowful exile than the exile from my country. Moreover, I am drawing close to a much sadder and more painful exile than the melancholy exile of the night and the mountain. Old age informs me that I am approaching the time of separation from the world. I then sought a light, a hope from these sorrowful exiles, one within the other. Suddenly, belief in God came to my assistance and afforded such a familiarity that, even if the compounded desolation in which I found myself increased 1,000-fold, its consolation would have been sufficient. Elderly men and women, since we have a compassionate Creator, there can be no exile for us. Since He exists, everything exists for us. Since He exists, the angels exist. The world is not empty. Lonely mountains and empty deserts are full of Almighty God's servants. Apart from His conscious servants, stones and trees become like familiar friends when seen through His light and on His account. They may converse with us and give us enjoyment. Yes, evidences and witnesses to the number of beings in the universe and to the number of the letters of this vast book of the world testify to the existence of our all-compassionate, magnificent, intimate, loving Creator, Maker, and Protector. They show us His mercy to the number of living creatures, members, foods, and bounties, which may be a means of receiving His compassion, mercy, and favor, and indicate His court. Impotence and weakness are the most acceptable intercessor at His court. And old age is precisely the time of impotence and weakness. So, one should not feel resentful at old age, which is thus an acceptable intercessor at a court, but love it. Seventh hope. One time, at the start of my old age, when the laughter of the old Sayyid was being transformed into the weeping of the new Sayyid, supposing me still to be the old Sayyid, the worldly in Ankara invited me there, and I went. At the close of autumn, I climbed to the top of the citadel, which was far more aged, dilapidated, and worn out than me. It seemed to me to be formed of petrified historical events. The old age of the season of the year, together with my old age, the citadel's old age, mankind's old age, the old age of the glorious Ottoman Empire, and the death of the Caliphate's rule, and the world's old age, all caused me to look in a most grieved, piteous, and melancholy state in that lofty citadel at the valleys of the past and the mountains of the future. As I experienced an utterly black state of mind in Ankara, encompassed by 4 or 5 layers of the darknesses of old age, one within the other, I sought a light, a solace, a hope. Note: my state of mind at that time prompted me to write a supplication in Persian. It was printed in Ankara in a treatise entitled Hubab. As I sought consolation looking to the right, that is, to the past, my father and forefathers and the human race appeared in the form of a vast grave and filled me with gloom rather than consoling me. Seeking a remedy, I looked to the future, which was to my left. I saw that it appeared as a huge, dark grave for myself, my contemporaries, and future generations. It produced horror in place of familiarity. Feeling desolate in the face of the left and right, I looked at the present day. It appeared to my heedless, historical eye as a coffin bearing my half-dead, suffering, and desperately struggling corpse. So, despairing of that direction too, I raised my head and looked at the top of the tree of my life, and there was my corpse. It stood at the top of the tree, and was watching me. Feeling horror at this direction, too, I bowed my head. I looked to the foot of the tree of my life, to its roots, and saw that the soil there, the earth which was the source of my creation, and the dust of my bones mixed together, was being trampled underfoot. That was no remedy, it only added further pain to my affliction. Then I was forced to look behind me. I saw that this unstable, transient world was tumbling, disappearing into the valleys of nothingness and the darkness of non-existence. I was seeking a salve for my pain, but it only added poison. Since I could see no good in that direction, I looked in front of me. I sent my view forward to the future. I saw that the door of the grave was open right in the middle of my path. It was watching me with its mouth agape. The highway beyond it, which stretched away to eternity, and the convoys traveling that highway, struck the eye from the distance. But, apart from a limited will as my sport and defensive weapon in the face of the horrors coming from these 6 directions, I had nothing. The faculty of will, man's only weapon against those innumerable enemies and endless harmful things, is both defective and short and weak and lacks the power to create, so he is capable of nothing apart from acquisition. It could neither pass to the past in order to silence the sorrows which came to me from there, nor could it penetrate the future to prevent the fears which arose from there. I saw that it was of no benefit for my hopes and pains concerning the past and future. As I was struggling in the horror, desolation, darkness, and despair proceeding from these 6 directions, the lights of belief which shine in the sky of the Qur'an of miraculous exposition suddenly came to my assistance. They lit up and illuminated those 6 directions to such a degree that if the terrors and darkness I had seen increased 100-fold, the light would still have been sufficient to meet them. One by one, it transformed all those horrors into solace and desolation into familiarity. It was as follows. Belief rent asunder the desolate view of the past as a vast grave and showed it with utter certainty to be a familiar, enlightened gathering of friends. And belief showed the future, which had appeared in the form of a huge grave to my heedless eyes, to be most certainly a banquet of the most merciful one in delightful palaces of bliss. And belief rent the view of present time as a coffin, as it had appeared to my heedless view, and showed it with certainty to be a place of trade for the hereafter and a glittering guest house of the all-merciful one. And belief showed with utter certainty that the only fruit at the top of the tree of life was not a corpse, as had appeared to my neglectful eye, but that my spirit, which would manifest eternal life and was designated for eternal happiness, would leave its worn-out home to travel around the stars. And through its mystery, belief showed that my bones and the earth that was the source of my creation were not valueless pulverized bones trampled underfoot, but that the earth was the door to divine mercy and will before the halls of paradise. And through the mystery of the Qur'an, belief showed that the world, which had appeared to my heedless eye as trembling behind me into nothingness and non-existence to consist of missives of the eternal besought one, and pages of decorations and embroideries glorifying God, which had completed their duties, stated their meanings, and left their results in existence in their place. It made now with complete certainty the true nature of the world. And through the light of the Qur'an, belief showed that the grave which would open its eyes and look at me in the future was not the mouth of a well, but that it was the door to the world of light, and that the highway which stretched to eternity beyond it led not to nothingness and non-existence, but to existence, a realm of light and eternal bliss. Since belief demonstrated this to a degree which afforded utter conviction, it was both a remedy and a salve for my afflictions. And in place of a very minor ability to receive, belief puts a document into the hands of the limited faculty of will through which it may rely on an infinite power and be connected to a boundless mercy in the face of those innumerable enemies and layers of darkness. Indeed, belief is a document in the hand of man's will, and although this human weapon of will is in itself both short, powerless, and deficient, just as when a soldier utilizes his partial strength on account of the state, he performs duties far exceeding his own strength, so too, through the mystery of belief, if the limited faculty of will is used in the name of Almighty God, and in His way, it may gain also a paradise as broad as 500 years. And belief takes from the hands of the body the reins of the faculty of will, which cannot penetrate to the past and future, and hands them over to the heart and spirit. Since the sphere of their life is not restricted to present time like the body, and included within it are a great many years from the past and a great many years from the future, the will ceases being limited and acquires universality. Through the strength of belief, it may enter the deepest valleys of the past and repel the darkness of its sorrows. So too, with the light of belief, it may rise as far as the farthest mountains of the future and remove its fears. My elderly brothers and sisters who are suffering the difficulties of old age like myself, since, praise be to God, we are believers, and in belief are found these many luminous, pleasurable, agreeable, and gratifying treasures, and since our old age impels us even more to the contents of the treasure, for sure, rather than complaining about old age accompanied by belief, we should offer endless thanks.